Sure.
Welcome to the My City, My Game pod show featuring Raider J77, your place for all things Raiders and all things Trailblazers. Brought to you by the Spotlight Sports Network. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Now let's go.
What up, what up, what up? It's your boy Raider J77. This is the My City, My Game pod show. It is Raider J Reaction Tuesday. You know what time it is. I appreciate everybody who subscribed, everybody who watches faithfully every week, everybody that's been there since the beginning. Shout out to you. I appreciate you. If you have not already, make sure you like, subscribe, share the live feed, and hit the bell for notifications. All the notifications. I will be doing a 500 subscriber giveaway. That's going to be the giveaway to end all giveaways. Now, it's going to be pretty dope. No, trust me, it's going to be pretty dope. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell because I will be releasing a video soon to let you know what that is. We're at about 150, I believe, subscribers right now. So do yourself a favor. If you want to be part of that giveaway, share this channel. I appreciate y'all. I have got a guest today on Raider J Reaction Tuesday. It is my guy, Jake the Snake Silva. And you know, I have my Ken the Snake Stabler t-shirt on. So welcome, man. I appreciate you hopping in here, man.
Yeah,
I know we're
absolutely,
a little bit
man.
late,
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity of jumping. It's going to be an awful lot of fun and definitely going to be breaking down all of these games, man. What a week 13 it has been, and we're only just finishing up with tonight's game. But, hey, this is going to be fun for today, man. But really do appreciate the opportunity of jumping on.
Yeah, most definitely, man. We got to start a little bit late today. We usually start at 5. We got to start at 5:30. That's just because I had a bunch of extra stuff going on today, a bunch of things. I did so much, man. I've been to the doctor's office, or not the doctor's, but I don't know. Well, I had 2 doctor's appointments, one for me, one for my daughter. I had a DMV appointment, and then I had to eat lunch. So, like, you know how the DMV, the doctor, I mean, especially in COVID-19, take forever. Everything takes forever, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was gone all day, just running. So, sorry guys for being a little bit late, but if you are here, make sure you jump into the chat. Let me know that you're here. I want to shout you out. I want to recognize you for being here watching live. Let me know what your reactions are. We will be opening up the phone lines here very, very shortly so that you can call into the show if you would like to call in and you can give me your take or your reaction. Give us your 2 cents on the games and stats and things like that. So definitely make sure that you get ready. Also, that phone line, you can call into that line. You can text that line. You can leave a voicemail when I'm not on the show. Hit me up. Let me know if there's something you want me to talk about, something you want to share, something Raiders related, Trailblazers related, NFL related, whatever the case may be. Just hit me up, man. But yeah, I guess we'll just jump right in here, man. We're gonna jump right in. I'm gonna wait a little bit because I want to give some of my viewers some time, Jake, before we get into the Raiders game, because I know that a lot of the guys and girls that follow my channel are Raiders fans. So I want to wait a little bit and give some people time to get going and stuff like that and get up in here and start watching before we go over that game.
Certainly.
Right now, just to give you guys a heads up, for those of you who are watching right now, the Cowboys are playing the Ravens right now. The score is 7-3 Ravens. The Ravens are currently 6-5. The Cowboys are 3-8 on the season. Lamar Jackson is playing. He is 4 of 5 right now for 20 yards, and he's thrown an interception. Everybody that watches my show knows how I feel about Lamar Jackson. Jake, you know how I feel about Lamar Jackson. I've
Oh
made it-
yeah.
I've
Yeah,
made it very clear.
every single one of us right now are just looking at Lamar Jackson. I'm just looking at it like the Baltimore. They're playing like they're one dimensional right now. They're becoming very predictable at this point, and so this is a game they cannot afford to lose, and especially against the Cowboys team that how I feel about Dallas and how the rest of the season has panned out for them. But if they drop a dud on this one, you might as well throw all your chips in at this point, sell it out, and put this team on the grill at this point.
Yeah, most definitely. And shout out to Water King Anonymous. He says, pull this up here. He says, hey, my city, my game. How's it going? And who's that ugly looking dude on the right with the red cap next to you? Just kidding. Love you guys. Keep up the good work. Appreciate you, Water King Anonymous. You are definitely one of the loyal viewers of not just us individually as individual channels, but of the whole network, the Spotlight Sports Network. So we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, love you, Water King, man. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Right now, Andy Dalton is 6 of 7 for 25 yards. Lamar Jackson's got 4 carries right now for 52 yards and 1 touchdown. So he's got that going for him, which we, of course, we all know that. Just if he could figure out how to throw a ball.
Right.
And then CeeDee Lamb for Dallas has 4 receptions for 27 yards. So those are the top performers in that game currently. So we'll keep you guys posted as we move along through the show, and we'll react to changes to that game as they come. But for now, we're going to talk about the Saints. We're going to talk about the Falcons. Saints are 10-2. Falcons are 4-8. Let me pull up their box score. So that game went down. And the final score of that game was 21-16. So the New Orleans Saints defeat the Falcons 21-16.
And not to mention, too, this was also their way of punching their ticket in as they clinched the playoff berth here. They were the first team to end up clinching it here in the NFC. So it was a very, very interesting game from here on Sunday.
Yeah, so that was definitely an important game for New Orleans. They beat them by 5 points, which makes me feel a little bit better as a Raiders fan. Considering, they, even the New Orleans Saints, being 10-2, very good team, had some difficulty with the Atlanta Falcons. Now the Falcons didn't put up, what was it, 43 points on them, but still, makes you feel a little bit better when Atlanta is competitive with New Orleans. But we beat New Orleans somehow, but we couldn't beat Atlanta. I don't get that. Anyhow, we'll go over that later.
Sure.
What's up, Butcher's Block and Patriots Talk? What's good, man? He says, Jake, hold this for me.
Oh, jeez. Is this some sort of vendetta or something like that, man? Anytime Water King comes up, man, you come up with like the most hilarious thing, man. Like, how do you even know I'm shook? I don't even think you can see from the inside out, man.
Oh man,
I just see it. I'm like, oh Lord, this guy.
What'd you do to Water King? What'd you do?
I've never done anything to Water King. I mean, look, I didn't end up drowning him, man. I mean, seriously, the water's still flowing there.
Right. So Taysom Hill was the starting quarterback again for the New Orleans Saints last Sunday.
Oh, what a great performance out of him that Sunday.
Yep, 27 of 37, 232 yards. 2 touchdowns. He was sacked a couple times, but he had an overall passer rating of 107.0. So good on him. Matt Ryan was 19 of 39 for 273 yards, a touchdown. He had 3 sacks and an overall QB rating of 80.4. Pretty standard Matt Ryan. Nothing too crazy or too glamorous from him. Alvin Kamara was the leading rusher for New Orleans, 15 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown. And then Ito Smith was the leading ball carrier for Atlanta. Excuse me. He had 8 touches or 8 carries for 36 yards and no touchdowns. So not too glamorous from the run game for Atlanta. No wonder there was such a low scoring game. You can't establish the run, you ain't gonna score touchdowns. Michael Thomas was the leading receiver for New Orleans, 9 receptions, 105 yards, no touchdowns. Traquan Smith had a touchdown. Jared Cook had a touchdown. And then Calvin Ridley for not even Julio Jones. Calvin Ridley was the top receiver for Atlanta, 5 receptions for 108 yards, decent day. And no touchdowns, but Russell Gage had a touchdown. So that's basically the box score. I mean, really nothing too crazy. It was a competitive game. You know, New Orleans was consistent. They scored, 3 touchdowns in the first 3 quarters. Really, Atlanta couldn't really get anything going in the first half, except for field goals. And then they scored that, touchdown at the end, really to try to come back. But I believe that was if I'm not mistaken, that was a little bit later in the quarter, or in the end of the quarter.
Right.
So that's the game there for New Orleans. Nothing.
my takeaways up on this one. I think Taysom Hill once again is having another quality start at quarterback. I know this is like the 3rd straight week he's been starting. But I think he's really been looking locked in. I mean, listen, Sean Payton is hoping that, Drew Brees comes back somehow, but it just kind of seems like Taysom Hill's really kind of stepped it up a notch. We saw this last year with Teddy Bridgewater coming in an opportunity, keeping the Saints competitive. It's the same thing and I just keep thinking I seriously think this is like a Sean Payton effect. Because the second the next man comes up, when your star quarterback is down, he's going to end up doing what he can to be efficient, make a few passes. I mean, 27 to 37 out of Taysom Hill in that week. That's good quality throwing. That's enough where he was able to get the ball down. But of course, you look at how the defense ended up playing up. I mean, they limited Atlanta to 70 yards rushing. And that's just was not a great day on, for the ground and pound for Atlanta. But here's also a takeaway here. This is very interesting. But New Orleans had 10 penalties. They had 10 penalties in the game, and Atlanta only had 1. They had 1 all throughout the game.
Wow.
So, what an interesting takeaway that is for, especially for a team that was just kind of limited to 16 points altogether. But I mean, this is kind of something that New Orleans come next week. They're going to need to clean up the penalties. But I think the offense, it's good to see that they were giving more opportunities for Michael Thomas to get into the game. I know they missed him that much, but 11 targets for 9 receptions. I mean, they needed to get him into the game somehow. But, on the other side of things with Atlanta, they utilized a lot more of Calvin Ridley, but even at the same time, still managed to give Julio Jones more targets to get him some receptions and get him involved. But I think over and all, I mean, this was kind of just the back and forth game and limited them on the rush. But New Orleans definitely played well. If we get another week of Taysom Hill doing what he does, maybe we might have some future discussions about what the future is going to shape like for Taysom Hill and New Orleans. I never saw him as a franchise quarterback. For all the years we watched Taysom Hill, I've never seen him like that. But knock on wood, he's playing really good. But let's see what next week is going to bring. Congratulations to the New Orleans Saints. They clinch another playoff berth again in their franchise. And let's see let's just see what the future holds for the Saints here moving forward.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, that would be something interesting to see. Because everybody just always just assumed he was going to be that Swiss Army knife, that we're going to use. But there's a chance that, it's possible he could end up being the franchise quarterback. But like you said, it all depends on his performance and what he does, where he goes.
Sure.
So just let you guys know, we are going to open up the phone line. So if you do want to call in, you can definitely call in, give us your 2 cents on any one of the game scores, stats, whatever, throughout the week in the NFL. Butcher Block, Patriots Talk says, Jake's still mad about the 45-0 blowout.
No, I'm already past it. Season's over. I'm already past it. Give me 2021, please.
You have to in those situations, man. You have to, bro. You got to move past quick. Otherwise, it's demoralizing.
Yeah, I've already suffered my death by 5,000 cuts. I'm over it, and now I'm moving forward into next week's game against the Atlanta Falcons.
Exactly. BL says, when you doing the Raiders historical history video? So I'm going to start doing that series. Things have been really crazy because Christmas, and I got some other stuff going on, with other work and stuff like that that's been keeping me kind of busy. So I will hopefully be doing that probably starting next week. I gotta sit down with the other guys on the network and figure out our schedule and what that's going to look like and when I can fit those episodes in, because I don't want to we don't want to overlap a lot with other stuff we got going on the network. So but definitely keep an eye out for that, because I will be doing that soon. Who y'all taking tonight? I'm assuming they're talking about the Cowboys and the Baltimore game.
I'm hoping that Baltimore wins this game, but just
you never know.
Performances, yeah. Well, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, I feel like Baltimore is going to take it. I feel like they're just the better team overall. But Andy Dalton is very hot and cold. So if he gets hot, he's got a CeeDee Lamb and he's got an Amari Cooper that he can definitely utilize. So it just depends on whether or not he's able to get going, I think.
Yeah, not to mention, too, we have not seen so much action out of Ezekiel Elliott, and now you got Tony Pollard who's coming in here and utilizing more of the rushes, and maybe this is a kind of a mix-up that Mike McCarthy has in place, but who knows what Dallas is going to end up doing for tonight's game. But, looking at Baltimore, we know that Lamar Jackson's just coming off COVID, and I'm glad to see him on the field healthy and better. But right now, he just needs to reshape his game. He's way too one-dimensional, and I think teams are starting to figure that out, where they're just becoming predictable at this point, and they still don't have an over-the-top receiver. That's why I looked at it. I don't think defense was really their issue. I mean, they could fill in guys for defense, but if you don't have an over-the-top receiver, it's going to hurt you on the long run.
Yeah, most definitely. And you can see him get exposed, Lamar Jackson get exposed, and this offense, last season in the playoffs against the Titans, they were completely exposed. The Titans knew exactly what to do, and they did it, and they set the blueprint for how to beat this team. And now you're seeing those same struggles carry over into this season, throughout the season, up and coming. I mean, he goes from MVP to what? He's just not. The performances just aren't there this season. Yeah. But moving on to the next game in the NFL, we got the Detroit Lions versus the Chicago Bears. Surprisingly, the Detroit Lions, in my opinion, defeated the Chicago Bears. I personally thought that this defense was going to hold up against the Detroit Lions. They're struggling, but man, they battled. They battled hard. Detroit Lions are 5-7, and the Chicago Bears are 5-7 right now. Matthew Stafford was 27 of 42 for 402 yards. 402 yards. That's 9.6 yards per pass. 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. He was sacked twice. Overall passer rating of 109.4. I would like somebody to tell me the last time he had a passer rating of 109.4.
Yeah, that has been a long, long time we've ever seen Matthew Stafford have a game like that.
Yeah, and I was wondering, man, when Gooley hit me up yesterday, he was so, or not yesterday, but the day before on Sunday, he was so mad. At his team, and I was like, and I didn't actually get a chance to watch that game in its entirety. Yeah. But I was like, man, why? It couldn't have been that bad. But then I looked at this and I was like, oh.
Well, okay. Yeah. I mean, if you look at it right now, I mean, the unfortunate part is for the Chicago Bears, I think the tires have blown out. I mean, this has not been the same team since they originally had started the season at 5-0. And now they're starting to lose games, not to mention, you deal with the Trubisky and Foles thing. Foles gets hurt. Trubisky comes back in, and yet you're getting Trubisky at the same time. Offense can't seem to generate the way that they're supposed to, especially in times like this. But the defense, I feel like now is just kind of gotten to the point they're gassed, they're wore out. And right now, I mean, Ryan Pace, he's already on the hot seat of potentially getting fired from his job because, listen, they had an opportunity in 2015 of getting a quarterback, whether it was Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes or any of those quarterbacks, and they end up moving up to going and taking a kid in North Carolina who only had the start in senior year. I don't understand, at that point, but I think the Chicago Bears, they're holding themselves accountable for what they've done in that draft. And right now, moving forward, I feel like they're gonna part ways with Ryan Pace. I mean, the team needs to get better at this point. It needs to get better. They need to get much better with generating their offenses. Defense needs to be shut down. Like but it's going to be a lot of discussions for the Bears come the offseason.
Yeah, most definitely. Mitch Trubisky was 26 of 34 for 267 yards, a touchdown, 2 sacks, and he had a QBR rating of or passer rating, of 108.3. So, it's not like he did terribly. So let's see if we can figure out what the heck happened. Adrian Peterson, 16 carries for 57 yards, 2 touchdowns. Well, there you go. There's a good run game, even though he only had 57 yards. You punch it in for a touchdown.
They're utilizing him a lot more, especially in red zone offense. I've seen that the previous week with how they were utilizing Adrian Peterson, and he's still lethal in the red zone, man.
Yeah, most definitely. And then David Montgomery, I mean, he had a pretty decent game, 17 carries, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns. I have him on my fantasy team, and he scored me some good points. Let's see. Marvin Jones Jr., leading receiver for Detroit. He had a touchdown, 8 receptions for 116 yards. And then Allen Robinson, 6 receptions for 75 yards, no touchdowns. So we had 1 passing touchdown by the Bears, which was to Cole Kmet. And of course the Detroit Lions had 3. So yeah, I mean, you get you got 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's a recipe for victory. Especially if the Detroit Lions defense was able to hold up, which it looks like they were, against a struggling offense. Let's take a look. I want to take a look at something real quick.
Sure.
So they're pretty equal as far as first downs were concerned. Their third down efficiency was, I mean, pretty much the same, a little bit different. The Lions were a little bit better. But the Lions had 460 yards. Chicago had 389. So that's not a huge gap.
No, but of course, the big difference was, of course, in the pass game, because even if you look at it from the run game, I mean, most of the passing came from Detroit with 400.
Yep.
But then they were just limited the whole day. Even if they were running, the red zone rush, they ended up getting limited to 60 yards on the run.
That's definitely that was where they broke their back was in that pass game. That pass game for Detroit, Matt Stafford was just on fire, man. What's funny is I think Matt Stafford watches the My City My Game Raider J Reaction Tuesday, because I said last week I called Matt Stafford the Wonder Bread of quarterbacks. Wonder bread meaning just plain white bread. It's not very spectacular. It does the job. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. It's kind of middle of the pack. Just, it's Wonder Bread, whatever. I called him Wonder Bread, and then he comes out and he does this week. So I think he watches the show and just doesn't comment or anything like that. I have Matt Stafford as a secret subscriber.
Maybe he's, that he was just using it as fuel of fire, man. He's just like, listen, I ain't about that Wonder Bread thing, man. So, hey, hopefully that boy's got a lot of wonder in him, but it looked like today, and this week, he looked really, really comfortable in that pocket today.
Yeah, for real. Next game, Browns versus the Titans. The Browns are 9-3, which baffles me. The Titans are 8-4. 41-35, the Browns defeat the Titans. If you saw that coming, you better open up a Clio line, because you are a freaking psychic, because I guarantee you nobody saw that coming. Probably maybe a diehard Browns fan, that's about it.
I mean, I truly, seriously, I had said this. I thought this was going to be a competitive game all the way around, because if you looked at both teams, Cleveland, there's question marks about Baker Mayfield, but I love their run game. I love their defense. Tennessee, of course, with Derrick Henry and what they're capable of under Mike Vrabel. I thought this was going to be a competitive game, and to be honest, this looked a lot more like a playoff atmosphere game, dude. I'm telling you, this looked more like a playoff game, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, most definitely. And I mean, Baker Mayfield was 25 of 33 for 334 yards. That's
4
10
touchdowns and no picks.
and no, and that's 10.1 yards per pass. His overall passer rating was 147.0.
Yeah. And listen, he stepped up in a big way because this was an ultimate testament to Baker Mayfield of what he can do moving forward. Because after playing that game, there were a couple of passes. I don't know if you had seen in the highlights, but there were a couple of passes that I thought was vintage Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma, in my opinion. This has been a very different Cleveland Browns team than what we saw a year ago or even the year before. I mean, but Kevin Stefanski has done a great job of handling this team, even with all these woes in the front offices or whatnot. But Baker looked really good. And I think, to be honest, if the playoffs started today, I truly do believe I think Baker Mayfield can win a playoff game. I think he can win a playoff game.
I mean, if a performance like that, yeah, if you can perform like that in the playoffs, yeah, you can definitely win a playoff game. Prince Sean said, Jake the Snake and Raider J.
What's going on, man?
What's up, Prince Sean? Shout out to you. I'm going to get to a couple things here in the chat. Water King Anonymous says, bro, if I was the coach and had the option of getting Mahomes, I would have been hyped. Well, yeah, anybody get Mahomes to be hyped. He also said pretty equal of getting first downs just because first downs are rare. First downs may not be rare, but if you get 17 first downs and the other team gets 2, they're probably not going to win. Let's see what else. Mayfield getting better by the minute. LG Reds fan says, what's up? Man? What's up? LG Reds fan says, I love y'all guys. Appreciate you, man. Douglas Gray. What's up, big man? Hey, what's good? Hey, that's actually my father-in-law.
Oh,
how you doing, Doug? What's up, Doug?
What's going on, Doug?
That's my wife's father. All right. So, where was I? Yeah, Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill didn't have a bad game either. 29 of 45 for 389 yards. 3 touchdowns, an interception, 3 sacks, and an overall passer rating of 104.8. So that's not too bad. I mean, it was definitely not, it was 41-35. So, 6-point difference between the two. Nick Chubb, 18 carries for 80 yards. That's one thing that Cleveland has going for him. Their run game is pretty different. I mean, they got a committee back there between Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Those two handcuffed together, man, is really good. Nick Chubb did have a touchdown on the game. Derrick Henry, 15 carries for only 60 yards. So their defense did a good job of shutting him down, which is difficult. No touchdowns, but Jeremy McNichols did have a touchdown. So it looks like establishing the run. Looks like that's what put Cleveland over the top here for them. Is there anything else that you saw, Jake, that you really think is mentionable?
I mean, I will tell you this. I mean, there was actually one highlight that I just ended up seeing here. And the play that was made to A.J. Brown to making it into the end zone at least as much as he could, strip the football out, but Pruitt able to pick the football up and dive in for that touchdown. I mean, at least they're heads up. I really am liking both these teams because we know that Tennessee came up on a roadblock, but they managed to readjust. They managed to refocus. And the team did not get worse. It actually is still getting better at this point, and they're preparing themselves at the right time. So even regardless of a loss like this, that's not something I'd hang my head on because Tannehill looked really, really good. But it's as you mentioned about Cleveland. That has been their nucleus of this team is running the football more. And Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt have been the big time 1-2 punch for this run offense. It has been one of the biggest adjustments that Kevin Stefanski wanted to bring to the table because we realized last year how many times that Cleveland had to lean on Baker Mayfield to be the savior of their franchise. And respectfully, he's not. He's not. And that's where I think Stefanski had to really kind of put him in his place and understand what his limitations are and what are some of the benefits and what are some of the struggles that he has. So I think that's why I give kudos to Kevin Stefanski to making that happen, because this is we're not trying to bury the Cleveland Browns. In fact, I'm happy of what I'm seeing from them. Now, let's not get too overexcited. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. I mean, this is kind of the first ever winning season we're actually seeing out of Cleveland. And this has been a team and a franchise that has been a losing culture. So getting used to adjustments on a winning mentality, it is going to take some time, but I'm loving what I'm seeing from it. Very good job from Baker Mayfield. I think he proved a lot of doubters wrong this week. But if I see that in the next 4 games of the season, Cleveland's definitely winning a playoff game. They're winning a playoff game, and we'll see what fate determines on their end when when we go through the playoffs.
Most definitely. I totally agree with you. Go to the chat here real quick. It said, Water Kingdom Anonymous says, fun fact, did you guys know that Steve Harvey's favorite team is the Browns, and said the main reason they'll do good is Mayfield? Yeah, he is from Cleveland originally. So, it doesn't surprise me that he would be a Browns fan. But, honestly, I heard about Baker Mayfield, and I thought he was going to be good at first, but then when he came out and he did what he did, just stinking it up every game, I lost a lot of faith. But you never know. I mean, guys have ups and downs, and we'll have to see what he does. But obviously, they've kept him the starter for a reason. So hopefully, he'll be able to. They were really laying it down on the line for him, and that was the one thing, because of course, when you come into a franchise and you're a number 1 overall pick, you are guaranteed that you are the future face of the franchise. It has been shaky because think about it. You got Baker in Oklahoma grabbing crotch, and showing off to, opposing college programs, not to mention the police video and these commercials and it just seems like there's so much happening in the world of Baker Mayfield. But I think once they got Kevin Stefanski in, he was just like, listen, it's either my way or the highway from here, and I think, you got to put a mentality on a kid like that, because you don't want a guy getting too cocky to the point saying, I've got this, and then he comes and stinks it up. You know what I mean? And it's important because, I mean, think about it from a Raider fan perspective. When you thought of Jamarcus Russell, you thought he was going to be the biggest guy, LSU quarterback. He had a hell of an arm, but sometimes it does depend on it, because it's whether the quarterback's going to succeed or the coach is going to level him to a point where he can succeed. And it seemed like it was going up when Hugh Jackson was there, then fell down by the time it went to Freddie Kitchens, and now it's starting to rise back up. And so I'm loving this version, and I love how Kevin Stefanski put this together. Let's see a lot more of this, and I think Cleveland will be on the road to success in no time. Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, I don't want them to succeed this week against the Ravens. The Raiders need them to lose.
It's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. And not to mention, you got Pittsburgh along the way too.
Exactly. So, we're trying to get into the playoffs. So if the Browns lose out the rest of the season, I'm okay with that. I don't wish that on them, except for the fact that, like I said, we're trying to get to the playoffs and they're in our way. So they need to move. 5 Minute Sports says, how y'all doing today? Shout out to you, 5 Minute Sports. I'm assuming that says
Gaming.
Yep, Veggie's Gaming. I didn't want to mispronounce that. Water King Anonymous says, all right, guys, I'll come back in 30 minutes where they'll read our comments again. Just kidding. Hey, I just read your comment, okay?
Yeah, we know you're there, Water King, okay?
Yeah,
the water's still flowing in the chat, man, okay?
We can see, Jay can see, everybody can see. Just Gaming says, I love y'all podcast. Appreciate you. Hey, if you guys are watching for the first time, the My City My Game podcast, I'm going to drop it right now in the chat there for you. If you are not watching on the channel, but you're watching on Facebook or maybe the Spotlight Football Talk, the Spotlight Sports Network, jump over to My City My Game, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. I appreciate y'all. BL says, can we write in Jamarcus Russell into the Pro Bowl?
Oh,
you could
Lord.
try.
You could try.
It depends on what the Pro Bowl is for. I mean, are we talking about Pro Bowl of sucking, or what are we talking about?
Pro Bowl the Pro Bowl is basically like the toilet bowl from here.
Exactly. All right. So next game, Cincinnati Bengals versus the Miami Dolphins. Kind of a stinker. The Bengals are 2-9. Had some unfortunate quarterback injury. 8-4 are the Dolphins. The Dolphins beat the Bengals, of course, 19-7. I expected the Dolphins to do better against the Cincinnati Bengals team, but they did what they did. They are what they are. Tua came back. They're having a whole lot. I'd really like to get into this whole the quarterback room with the coach and figure out this love triangle between Fitzpatrick, Tagovailoa, and the coach, because it's back and forth and up and down and make a decision, man. What are you gonna do? So
and you know what? I mean, I give kudos to Brian Flores for trying to handle this as best as he possibly can. But looking at Miami, I mean, I think about it. I mean, the first thing that you didn't expect Ryan Fitzpatrick to be having a season like he is, and because we've seen Ryan Fitzpatrick over the years be a serviceable type quarterback, and you look at it from him and Nick Foles and so many other quarterbacks that have come along the way. I mean, hell, let's throw another name out. Mark Brunell. I mean, Mark Brunell was a hell of a service quarterback, So we didn't expect a season like this from Ryan Fitzpatrick. But of course, the mentality of the Miami Dolphins was what is their future going to shape up? Because you watch Joe Burrow and you watch Justin Herbert. That was the only reason why it pushed Miami to now seeing, okay, what can Tua do in this, in this style of play in the NFL? Mm-hmm. If he can succeed, then that's where I think they'll turn around and go, okay, I think we've got our future intact. But of course, I mean, this was going to be like one of those proper send-offs or one of those kind of trade-offs that happened. We've seen it over the years with certain quarterbacks where they've been with the team long enough, and now we're starting to bring in the newest thing that's out. And so, but overall, if Miami is still continuing to win games, because I'm looking at it from the defense, and the defense has been playing very, very solid this year. This has been a big-time upgrade. Not to mention a huge adjustment by Brian Flores. So as long as the quarterback situation is efficient, then I think at that point, Miami, it's almost like a goaltender thing when you look at hockey. If you've got two efficient goaltenders there, then you've got a bigger edge going through into the Stanley Cup playoffs. But looking at it from this perspective with Miami, if they got two efficient quarterbacks, you utilize them the best way possible, because, of course, the biggest question in the season was, is Tua healthy? And can Tua really withstand the injury that he had in Alabama? But now we're starting to kind of see all this. There's going to be a lot of questions, but I think right now, as long as they're still continuing to win games, then who knows what fate will be in store for the future of their quarterback come next season and beyond.
Yeah, most definitely. Tua Tagovailoa was 26-39 for 296 yards. He had a touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks, and an overall passer rating of 97.8. That's a pretty decent game, especially for a rookie. Brandon Allen for the Bengals was 11 of 19. Looks like they've got a kind of a committee QB thing going on right now. 11 of 19 for 153 yards, one touchdown, one interception, 5 sacks. Ugh. And no wonder I feel bad for
Joe Burrow. Yeah,
Joe Burrow, man.
This was what I was scared of when the season started, man. And this is why I'm like, this organization has just been bad. It's been bad over the years. And I mean, you could go back to Carson Palmer days.
Yeah.
I mean, Carson Palmer, it's the reason why he pretty much threw that out there. He said, listen, you either trade me or I'm forcing retirement, because I can't afford to get my body hurt by this offensive line. And that's where he literally had to throw them on the bus and hold them accountable because it needs to get better. And once again, we're seeing another story, same thing rewritten. I mean, look, it's happened to him. It's happened to Andy Dalton, and now it's been happening to Joe Burrow, and they need to fix this up.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, there was a lot of talk about him possibly not even, declaring for the draft because he knew he was going to go to Cincinnati. And yeah, it's just an unfortunate thing for him. So Myles Gaskin was the leading rusher for the Dolphins, 21 carries for 90 yards, no touchdowns, but his longest was 26 yards. Giovanni Bernard was the leading ball carrier for the Bengals, 12 carries, 30 yards. No rushing touchdowns on the game. Tyler Boyd was the leading receiver. He had the lone touchdown for the Bengals. He had 72 yards receiving on just one reception. And then Mike Gesicki, Gesicki, was 88 yards, 9 receptions, a touchdown. So one touchdown thrown by Tua. Just a pretty lackluster game. Not really too much to write home about. BL does pose a question on this subject about Ryan Fitzpatrick. Is Fitzpatrick moving on after this season? Where to? I personally think that Ryan Fitzpatrick could be a starting quarterback. I wonder why some teams seem to want to move on from him from starting. Kind of like one of those, plug and play kind of guys where you just plug him in for a while until you find something better, and they seem to be finding something better. But I mean, the dude has decent numbers, especially, if you could put him behind a really good offensive line and put some good think about the teams he's played on and the receivers he's had.
Yeah, that's true.
I really personally feel like, there's teams out there like the Chicago Bears, for example, who really could use a guy like Ryan Fitz. And there's not a lot of guys out there right now. It's a very, very shallow quarterback pool right now. So if I was Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'd be like, dude, get me the hell out of here. I want a starting position. I want to go to a team that's going to build around me before I have to freaking retire, because I don't even know how old he is at this point.
He's been in the league for a long time, but I think, I think it's interesting you bring up Chicago in this point, because if Chicago can utilize his services until they get they figure out the quarterback position, because at that point they've already whiffed on quarterbacks. They already whiffed on Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes and a lot of these quarterbacks. And eventually they are very much going to need one. Now, I would not be surprised because think about the draft this year. There are going to be a bunch of quarterbacks that are going to be in place. I mean, if you're lucky enough, if you could land a kid like Zach Wilson and maybe Kyle Trask to get him there into Chicago, then I can see where Fitzpatrick can be serviceable in that position, to where he plays and then the team, the quarterback develops, and then at some point, when it is time, when the service is basically done, then you hand it off to the next quarterback in line. And hopefully Chicago gets this right. But I think, I don't think that's a bad idea for the Bears to go and inquire about Fitzpatrick and using his services just until they get this quarterback thing right. But you also even have to think of what they're eating up with Nick Foles' contract currently. That's going to be interesting.
Yep. BL says he's a super tough player. He could start anywhere. I agree. I think he's tough. I think he could start. Yeah. Chicago would be a good fit. I think of all the teams right now, maybe the Jaguars. I'm not sure how sold they are on Gardner Minshew, or how healthy he is, what he's going to be like when he comes back. Do the Giants, inquire about him? I think the Eagles are going to be pretty solid. They've got their, Jalen Hurts. Maybe the Patriots. Imagine a Fitzpatrick, being coached and
sure.
By good Lord, why is my brain not working?
I think honestly too, maybe this is just a sleeper team to me, but keep the Atlanta Falcons in on the back of your head, because eventually this Falcons team is going to want to move on from Matt Ryan. And from what I'm being told, because of the scenario that's happening in San Francisco right now with Jimmy Garoppolo and the quarterbacks they have currently with Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard, these are serviceable type quarterbacks. You're going to get guys that are going to win games, but they're not going to win the big games. But I think Atlanta, if they play this right, they're going to want to end up going for a quarterback. So if you move off Matt Ryan, acquire some picks, and start this rebuilding process, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick could be a catalyst in it, because think about it. He's got offensive weapons. He's got wide receivers, and I think the offensive line could use some reshaping, but I think that's where you're going to acquire picks for him. But I also do kind of feel like they are going to get a quarterback, and I think I'm leaning more towards potentially Trey Lance being their quarterback for the future. But I think if you bring any of them in and then have Fitzpatrick there at the helm, knowing he still has weapons there around him. I mean, Hayden Hurst is a really good tight end, man. Like he's really stepped up in a big way for Atlanta. So I think that could also be another sleeper team that I think could be a good fit for Fitzpatrick's services.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, moving on to the next game: Jaguars versus the Vikings. The Jaguars are 1-11. The Vikings are 6-6. The Jaguars had a respectable game. They did lose 27-24 to the Vikings. Mike Glennon for the Jags, 28-42 for 280 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks. Overall passer rating 73.5. Kirk Cousins, 28-43 for 305 yards, 3 touchdowns, an interception, was sacked 4 times. Overall passer rating of 99.5 on the game. James Robinson was the leading rusher, 18 carries, 78 yards, 1 touchdown. Dalvin Cook, obviously leading rusher for Minnesota, 32 carries, 120 yards, no touchdowns, no rushing touchdowns for Minnesota. Colin Johnson was the leading receiver for Jacksonville, 4 receptions for 66 yards. There was Laviska Shenault Jr. had a receiving touchdown for the Jaguars. Minnesota, Justin Jefferson, leading receiver, 121 yards on the game for 9 receptions. He had 1 touchdown. Adam Thielen had a touchdown. CJ Ham had a touchdown. Kirk Cousins had a pretty decent game. I mean, overall passer rating at 99.5 is definitely nothing to turn your nose up at. I'm surprised because Kirk Cousins is so bipolar. It's like he's either really good or he's really bad, and when he's bad, he's bad. I mean, he's kind of like Derek Carr in that way. Like, I think Derek Carr is more consistently good.
Yes.
Obviously, but man, like the way that Kirk Cousins does really well and then does so horribly bad is the same way that Derek Carr will do really, really well. And then when he does bad, it's like, oh my God, that was really bad.
Yeah. And it's funny because Kirk Cousins, to be honest, I mean, he's basically that any given Sunday type quarterback. You just don't know what you're going to end up getting out of him. And I mean, think about it. I mean, Minnesota's in that position where they're paying him this X amount of money. And still a guy that's not sold on, primetime games. That's just what's kind of the biggest knock on Kirk Cousins. And so I do believe Minnesota has the offensive weaponry to be a tough team. They still need to reshape the defense, but I truly just think with just the off and on, and it's like you mentioned, you need consistency at that position. And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Derek Carr is far more consistent than what Kirk Cousins is.
Yes.
But if you think about it, the reason that Kirk Cousins has numbers like this, look at the offensive weapons around him. Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Kyle Rudolph, Ito Smith, and Dalvin Cook. They've got some guys. And I think, and that's why I'm like, their offense could very much pop. I mean, think about it this way. Like, we saw years ago how efficient Case Keenum was. And Case Keenum, the only reason was because he had at least offensive weapons around him. So I think Minnesota, keep in mind with this, folks, I truly think Minnesota is going to go for a quarterback because however they're going to play this out with Cousins, they're not sold on him long term. They're not sold
No.
on him long term. And hopefully they'll still have the offensive weapons around him to make plays, but hopefully this will be a sign for the next quarterback to move up and hopefully get this Minnesota offense up and running to where I think they can be a very special team in the long run in the NFC.
Most definitely. Yeah. I think that they're, obviously Kirk Cousins, like you were saying, is not their future. They definitely need somebody to be able to put there that is the future, or at least, is better than what they have now. Until they either find that guy of the future or develop that guy of the future. Because like I said, next season the draft, the draft is going to be super shallow when it comes to starting quarterbacks to start right away. Anyway, after the first top 3 quarterbacks that are going to go off the board, there's a huge drop off in talent at the quarterback position. So you're going to have a lot of guys that are going to be developmental players. They're not going to be able to start right away in the NFL. All right. Next up, we have the Colts versus the Texans. The Colts are 8-4. The Texans are 4-8. Bial says, I hate the Vikings. I believe Bial is I believe he is. Yeah, he's a Raiders fan. Okay. I was going to say, I have somebody that watches the show that's a Chicago fan. I don't remember who it is. Anyhow, but yeah, the Colts did defeat the Texans 26-20. Mm-hmm. You know what, man? I'm really enjoying this Texans team being a different Texans team since Bill O'Brien got the axe. The guy was just horrible. Deshaun Watson's actually playing some decent football. Again, he's very high up there as far as his ranking at quarterback. They really, it was one of the best decisions that ownership could have made, was getting rid of that guy needs to just never coach football again.
Well, it wasn't even just the coaching aspect, but you have to think about it, the general managing aspect. This is what happens when you give someone too much power to where they start to abuse it. And, because again, Deshaun Watson, I've been saying this now for the last couple of seasons, he deserves better at the line. Yes. Okay, they go and get Laramie Tunsil to go and fix up the tackle position, but they still need more than that. They need a better interior. They're going to need to fix up that right side tackle to ensure that Deshaun Watson's getting time to throw. Because even though, yes, he can move out of the pocket, he can create space, and he has a really good arm, but that's the other side of things too, is because the fact that without DeAndre Hopkins, even if you got Will Fuller being his top receiver, you are still getting guys that are injury prone. We've seen this with Kenny Stills, who they released, and then they ended up, you got Brandon Cooks, who I'm not even sure if Brandon Cooks, can stay healthy. We've seen how many times that he's played. This just needs to be revamped. They need to get a GM who knows what he's doing. And at the same time, think about it. There are going to be a lot of receivers coming into, in the future drafts, because we've been seeing it now. I think, honestly, if they go and draft a wide receiver, maybe my thought would be going and shooting and getting Jamar Chase. I think if they go and get Jamar Chase and putting Will Fuller there next to him, that'll save you something. I think that will save you something, but hopefully they can fix this offensive line. We do not need another Andrew Luck 2.0, especially in this division. I love Deshaun Watson, and I've been saying this with friends of mine. Me as a fantasy football owner, I would so want to draft Deshaun Watson. But that's the other risk factor of it, is because of his offensive line not giving him time to throw. And that's where Houston really needs to clean this up. And so
most definitely. I agree. Water King Anonymous, apparently he is on one tonight with you, man. Dang, I see you, my city, roasting the coach and saying he should never coach again. I have a suggestion too. How about if we can make this watchable by not letting Snake Sports comment? Just kidding.
Jesus Christ. You have a serious vendetta against me, Water King. I'm telling you, man.
Deshaun Watson on the game, 26 of 38, 341 yards, one interception, was sacked 5 times. You had mentioned it. Overall passer rating 85.5. Philip Rivers, the reemergence of old man Rivers, 27 of 35, 285 yards, 8.1 yards per pass. That's pretty decent. 2 touchdowns, 3 sacks, an overall passer rating of 119.3. He moved the ball around a lot, in the game, which, surprising. T.Y. Hilton, 8 receptions for 110 yards. Michael Pittman Jr., 5 for 46. T.Y. Hilton had a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor had a touchdown. They ran the ball pretty decent. Jonathan Taylor, 13 carries for 91 yards. And then Jacoby Brissett, Nyheim Hines had a rushing touchdown on one of his 6 carries for the game. David Johnson, of course. What happened to David Johnson? 10 carries for 44 yards and a touchdown. Deshaun Watson had a rushing touchdown. He's one of those dual threat quarterbacks, man, that I just wish he was in a different situation. Kiki Kuti, 8 receptions for 141 yards. Chad Hansen had 101 receiving yards on 5 catches. And then Brandon Cooks, 5 receptions for 65 yards, but no passing touchdowns. So that's something that they're definitely going to have to work on moving forward. Really, man, I think that this was Houston held their own against one of the best defenses in the league right now. I can't be too mad at that. Like I said, this is not the team, that it will be eventually, but the changes that have been made, just the drastic contrast between pre-Bill O'Brien and post-Bill O'Brien firing is remarkable. Like, I mean, it's just crazy how much better these. And imagine if they had not Deshaun Watson, but the wide receiver that they traded away.
Oh, yeah, DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins, yes. Imagine if they had DeAndre Hopkins still.
Yeah,
how much better they'd be playing.
Yeah, I think they'd be playing much better. And you know what? I mean, Romeo Crennel is no stranger in the NFL. I mean, he's the type of guy that he's very even-keeled. I mean, listen, just because of the coaching matters that happened in Cleveland, every coach has gone through this, but Romeo Crennel has really stepped up in a big way, and I think he very much deserves the kudos. I mean, yeah, it's a little too late of it, but at the same time, he is bringing it. He is bringing a better presence for this Texans team. Now, of course, that may be the question in place about what the future may hold for the Texans at their head coaching, but of course, they are going to need a general manager to get this right. But yeah, I mean, like you mentioned about the Indianapolis Colts. The future is still in place for Philip Rivers. We're not sure exactly what's going to happen from here. I mean, but they needed him to be efficient, and he did exactly just that. The run game I thought was pretty good with Jonathan Taylor, Jordan Wilkins, and Nyheim Hines. I mean, they've been doing their best at it because I'm still excited for what the future brings for Jonathan Taylor. I truly think he's going to be an impactful running back in this league, because looking at that offensive line and how much that it can spread open for him to run downfield, that's why I think that, Indianapolis has a real good future on him. But if they want to take a chance at quarterback, I mentioned this multiple times. There are a couple of options that I think of when it comes to quarterback. I don't think they're going to draft one, to be honest. They do have one kid, Jacob Eason from Washington, they picked up this year, but I think they might roll the dice and say, they inquire about Sam Darnold or Dak Prescott or potentially Carson Wentz. That could be very interesting to see for Indianapolis, but they're only about a quarterback away from making this thing work, and this could be a team. I've seen them going 11-5, but after some of these starts that Indianapolis has had, but yet they're kind of taking advantage of it, it's going to be very interesting for them in the long run. But I think if it's the Colts and it's Chris Ballard making this happen, he's probably going to end up inquiring about some of these veteran quarterbacks. I truly think Sam Darnold would love this type of offense.
Yeah, most definitely. They're real close. I'm hoping that they're not close come Sunday when the Raiders play them. That's going to be a really really fun game. But we're going to talk about that later on this week on the show. So go to the chat real quick. Water King Anonymous says, "Hey, come on now! I'm just a family friendly troll in this community and loved by everyone, especially you, Snake Sports."
Love it when I say things about you because that way you're actually noticeable.
God. Butcher's Block Patriots Talk says Jake, major rumors coming out of Boston say that Josh McDaniels wants to coach the Chargers.
Oh.
Yeah, last time I read, Chargers were pretty happy with their coach.
No. I don't want a coordinator. I do not. This is no time for coordinators, Dean. It's a time for a freaking head coach. You're either going to get Bill Belichick, you're either going to get Lincoln Riley, Urban Meyer, Brian Kelly. I don't care who you get. I want a head coach, not a coordinator. There's a difference between the two. So enough fooling around, dude. Like we just saw Josh McDaniels and what he did at Denver. If he comes to the Chargers, dude, I'm done. I'm done. The future is going to be ruined for Justin Herbert at that point. After what I've seen in his time, in his tenure with Denver, never again. That's why he goes back to New England to go in and learning this, because honestly, he's a better coordinator than he is of a coach. It's just not going to happen that way.
Yeah.
So spend the money, Dean. No more being a cheap ass. Spend the money and get a head coach.
Right. Right now, the Cowboys are losing to the Ravens 17-10. The top performers in the game right now, Andy Dalton, 15-22 for 123 yards and a touchdown. Lamar Jackson's the leading, the top performing rusher, 6 carries, 55 yards and a touchdown. And CeeDee Lamb is 6 receptions for 46 yards. So, a little bit of shootout going on there. Ravens versus the Cowboys, and that's something you got to pay attention to. Lamar Jackson, coming off of COVID, a lot of guys are just not quite the same. They struggle to get through games. It's COVID-19 is a real thing, man, and it does really affect. It doesn't matter how healthy you are. The after effects, everybody is different, and if you can't breathe, you can't breathe. So, you see healthy guys on the sidelines with oxygen tanks, trying to get air and stuff. This is pro football. These guys are running 110 miles an hour every single play. So, all right, next up we got the Rams and the Cardinals. Still got a few games to get through. Rams, Cardinals. Rams 8-4, Cardinals are 8-6. Am I reading that? No, 6-6, excuse me. Yep. The Rams defeat the Cardinals 38-28. Jared Goff, he was 37-47 for 351 yards and a touchdown. Cam Akers for the Rams had 21 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown. And Robert Woods had 10 receptions for 85 yards for the Rams. Those are your 3 top performers. So obviously you see why the Rams won that game. If your players perform better than the other team, the chances are you're going to win. So,
and don't forget about the rushing performance that the Rams put on. Their rushers, even you got Jared Goff decided to get a rushing touchdown in that point in that game.
Yeah, Darrell Henderson had a rushing touchdown, 3 carries for 49 yards. Jared Goff rushing touchdown. He actually carried the ball 4 times for a whole yard. Kenyon Drake for the Cardinals, 10 carries, 49 yards, and a touchdown. Kyler Murray, 21-39 for 173 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, was sacked twice. His overall passer rating was 80.4. Jared Goff's overall passer rating was 104.9. The last 2 games, the Arizona Cardinals, man,
they haven't looked the same.
They have not.
The same. Well, and I think that the unfortunate part is, I've been saying this about Arizona before even getting Kyler Murray, but they have got to fix that offensive line.
Yes.
I do believe Arizona does have the pieces in place to be a really, really good team. But you have to think about it. This is a competitive NFC West. You got the Rams, you got the Seahawks, you got the 49ers. The Cardinals really need to reshape this offensive line. And I say this respectfully because, listen, You drop the dud with Josh Rosen. Fine. But it still does not help your issue with your offensive line. And I love Kyler Murray, but the last thing I want to see is him continuously running for his life, even though that he has the ability and he's got the legs to do so. But that should not always be his strength, is his run, because we've seen him throw. He throws beautiful deep balls all the time. And if you get a better offensive line that's going to give him time in the pocket, maybe we'll see more of those dropping dimes to DeAndre Hopkins and Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald. And that's where I think Arizona really needs to address the issue. I like what this team is doing, but they've got to reshape this quick.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, when you allow Kyler Murray to get sacked twice, the guy has legs. He's fast. He's agile. He's got great vision. If he's getting sacked twice in a game, it's because they're letting the rushers get to him way too often.
Yeah,
way too often. I mean, because at this point, it's just a matter of how many times is it going to take before you actually get the sack against Kyler Murray? And the more chances you have, the more likely you're going to, you cannot allow a guy like Kyler Murray to get sacked that much in a game. And that's just not acceptable. He is too elusive. He's too fast. He's got too good a vision. You're just not doing your job at that point. You're just throwing him out there to the wolves. Dan Arnold was the leading receiver, had 61 yards receiving and a couple of touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins had a touchdown and 52 yards, not on the season, but on the game. Robert Woods, leading receiver for LA, 85 yards on the game. No touchdowns though. But Tyler Higbee did have a touchdown and 4 receptions for about 24 yards on the game. So, the Rams are definitely looking a lot better these last few weeks. I'm quite surprised. I really saw with that loss against San Francisco, I really saw
remember, keep in mind with this, because how many times did Jared Goff get sacked? How many times did he get sacked in the game?
I don't remember the exact number, but it was 4
in today's game.
In this game. I thought you meant in the San Francisco game.
In this game.
Let's take a look. Hold on. Sorry, I just left that screen. One time.
So when he gets sacked once or less, they have a winning record. That's the one thing that when he gets sacked more than that, he's going to have a terrible game. And all of that is because this offensive line is good. It's good. But when you don't allow a lot of protection for Jared Goff, of course, because there have been rumored talks. I don't know who the hell brought this up, but somebody is thinking of a suggestion of bench Jared Goff. Hold on a second. Let's just pump the brakes here for a second, because Jared Goff needed Sean McVay, and Sean McVay, as an offensive genius and for as young of a head coach that he is, he's going to figure this out. He's going to make this right. We've seen him do this multiple times. The Rams are not that bad, and Jared Goff is not a terrible quarterback. In fact, Jared Goff has been spending majority of his time on the field than off the field. He hasn't even suffered any injuries or anything like that. So the last thing you want is to bench a guy like Jared Goff, who is your franchise quarterback. You're paying him this amount of money for what? And that's where people just kind of get a little overreacted by that, because again, numbers themselves don't lie. When he's sacked once or less, they have a winning record. Jared Goff is comfortable. And of course, he's going to give the ball off to Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and even for his tight ends like Tyler Higbee. He's going to have a comfortable game. I mean, think about it. He 37-47 for over close to 400 yards at 351. He was comfortable in that pocket. He was moving the ball downfield, but they utilized a little bit more of the rushes. LA is good. LA is good, but I would not give up on Jared Goff, or I wouldn't even have a thought of that, because think about it. Look at what's happening with Carson Wentz. Okay. Do we really want the Rams to go through this kind of thing? I don't think so. The Rams are fine. They're figuring this out, and they're going to get better week in, week out.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think that they should move on from Jared Goff. Is he lights out right now? No, but give the man some time, work some stuff around him. You can definitely obviously, because you get to a Super Bowl with him. So, all right, next up we've got the New York Giants, the New York Giant football team versus the Seattle Seahawks. The Giants defeat the Seattle Seahawks 17-12. The Seahawks are now 8-4. The Giants are 5-7. So here's what I'm going to say.
I'm loving this team right now. For as bad as the record shows, I'm loving the build of this team right now.
Yes. So first of all, this defense looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
They sacked this quarterback, Russell Wilson, 5 friggin' times. 5 times.
Yeah.
This is a perfect example of why you pick the best player available in the draft.
Yep.
Perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say something right now to Seattle and to the 12th man out there, anybody who might be watching this right now, that's a Seattle Seahawks fan, and to the Seattle Seahawks organization, y'all better get your crap together.
Yeah.
Because you just let this New York team walk all over you. You scored 12 points. You got Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf. Do I need to say more? I mean, my freaking goodness. You have Jamal Adams, Jordan Brooks, Bobby Wagner.
And don't forget, they acquired Carlos Dunlap.
Yeah,
I thought they fixed their pass rush.
Yeah, you have Benson Mayowa, and Benson Mayowa used to be a Raider, and he was not a bad. We were all very, very upset when Mayowa was not brought back.
Yeah.
So you have got absolutely no friggin' excuse to let this rebuild of a New York Giants team, running for the touchdown, tripping over his own feet.
Mind you, there was no Daniel Jones in this game. There was Colt McCoy.
McCoy. Who the F is Colt McCoy?
Dude, I've loved Colt McCoy since he was in Texas, man. Honestly, he's had a hell of a journey road in the NFL, man. It sucked when he went to Cleveland, then he goes to Washington and a bunch of other teams, and he just couldn't get a chance nowhere. And but I will say this though. I underestimated Joe Judge. And this is a guy who is part of Bill Belichick's coaching tree. I underestimated him. A guy who's a special teams coach. I give kudos to him. He is really shaping this team up well. But you have to think about this. Dexter Lawrence, Blake Martinez. How the hell does Green Bay let a guy like Blake Martinez just walk away that easily? He's right now one of their leading takeaway guys on the defense. So this is really shaped up well. I was kind of scared of New York because they got rid of a lot of pieces in their secondaries. They got rid of a lot of pieces on their linebackers. The defensive front is going to get better, but I was kind of scared of them. But I underestimated Joe Judge. He has figured this thing out. Honestly, they are playing like last year's Miami Dolphins did. Because if you think about it, the Dolphins with that's why Brian Flores right now is getting all the kudos as a head coach in Miami. Yes. Because the last 6 games of that season, they've won 5 of them. And the defense, after getting rid of Minkah Fitzpatrick, they got better. They got better. And Joe Judge is literally doing the same thing. I think that if you eliminate Daniel Jones is coughing the football up that easily, if he gets better protection of it, and when they get a healthy Saquon Barkley and maybe get a wide receiver in the draft, look out, NFC East. I don't think you're going to have one of the least in this division. I think the Giants are figuring this thing out, and I think they're going to get even better next season.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, this defense this New York defense had 10 quarterback hits and 5 sacks.
Yeah. That is a much improved defense this year.
That is, man.
And like I said, their record may be 5-7, but week in, week out, they are getting better as they go.
If you get a guy, whether it be Daniel Jones or somebody else who can sling the rock, who can extend plays, and you bolster this, I mean, the run game. I mean, Wayne Gallman had 135 yards.
Yeah.
On 16 carries, like you get your running room healthy. And you obviously have running back by committee. You can spell Saquon Barkley when you need to. You got a Evan Ingram, Golden Tate. I mean, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton. I mean, if you can get a guy that can sling the rock and who can stay healthy, this is a scary New York team with this defense.
This is going to be a scary New York team in this NFC. I mean, listen, you look at the division that they're in. They have the perfect opportunity. The Cowboys are trending down. The Philadelphia Eagles are trending down. The only competition really that they have to worry about is Washington. That's it. And those are that's the only competition you're going to get out of that division for the Giants. But no, absolutely. And you know what? I think this is going to be exciting because come next year when Saquon Barkley's healthy, I think you're going to have the best 1-2 punch right there because we're seeing with what's happening in Cleveland with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I think, and the Giants are no strangers for this because remember, we did have Brandon Jacobs, Derek Ward, and Ahmad Bradshaw years ago. I used to love the elements of the Giants where it was earth, wind, and fire. I think we might actually almost have a second up and coming, but I think Gallman and Barkley are going to be big time rushers next season. I'm excited for this team.
Most definitely. All right, next up we got the Green Bay Packers, who are 9-3 against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 3-8.
And let me just say real quick before we start is that hurts. Jalen Hurts.
Yes,
benching Carson Wentz and bringing in that hurts. That really
hurts. That hurts a lot. Carson sitting on the Wentz, it hurts. You heard of Elf on the Shelf? How about Wentz on the bench? That was Hammer. Hammer put that one in the chat earlier. So Green Bay Packers defeat the Eagles 30-16. Carson Wentz gets benched after a poor performance, 6 of 15 for 79 yards. Was sacked 4 times. His offensive line doesn't even care what happens to him.
No.
Overall passer rating 57.4. They bench him, bring in Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts goes 5 for 12, 109 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Was sacked 3 times, so they probably should protect better. For overall passer rating of 67.7, Aaron Rodgers 25 of 34, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 sacks. Overall passer rating 128.9. But is anybody surprised? Not me.
Nope. Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Aaron Jones carried the ball 15 times for 130 yards and a touchdown. Mike Sanders carried the ball 10 times for 31 yards. This run game for Philadelphia is just abysmal. Your number 2 overall, or your number 2 top ball carrier is your quarterback. 5 carries for 29 yards for Jalen Hurts. I mean, that's just gosh.
That's just
That's not good at all. Devontae Adams, 10 receptions for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. Robert Tonyan had a touchdown. Dallas Goedert had 5 receptions for 66 yards for the Eagles, no touchdowns, but Greg Ward did have a receiving touchdown and 57 yards on the game. And just, it went the way we thought it was going to go. The highlight of this whole thing was seeing Carson get benched and Jalen Hurts getting put in, because that was actually something exciting. Like, ooh, new shiny toy. Let's see what he does. So otherwise, it went the way we thought it was going to go. Nothing too spectacular. So we'll just move on to the next game. The next one, as soon as my screen.
I will say this though: Philadelphia has got some serious work to be done, because especially when you come up that last week on Monday against Seattle, you had Jeffrey Lurie, you had Howie Roseman, and you have Doug Peterson right there, all on television, man. That should say something about this organization. I mean, but they've got a serious decision to make here, because you're paying Carson Wentz all this money. That's a very expensive backup. Like, keep in mind of that, because I understand with that now that they got word Jalen Hurts is going to be the starting quarterback this next up and coming week. That's going to be interesting from this point, because, again, you can love or hate Carson Wentz. I still do see the moments where he can be an accurate quarterback. But, yes, the injuries have plagued this team. But at the same time, this team is still living in 2017. They haven't got their minds off of that Super Bowl, and it has been years now. It's an old told story. We need to move on. This is where they've seriously got to make some moves from here, because I will say this: the defense that last week looked really good, but the offense couldn't generate anything. And that's where they need to make some serious decisions. But from right now, from what I'm hearing them buzzing, there's a chance that Howie Roseman's job's in jeopardy. But however Philadelphia goes about their way, man, they need to figure this out, because they are living too much into the past. It's old news, and they got to get this thing right.
Most definitely. All right, next up, we got the Chiefs and the Broncos. The Chiefs defeat the Broncos. They're 11-1 right now. The Broncos are 4-8. They won by 22-16. Pretty surprising. I expected the Chiefs to put up a lot more of a fight in this one. It was even a little interesting after the game. Travis Kelce was interviewed and actually referred to the Broncos as the Raiders, which was weird. So I don't know if he had a concussion or what, but he apparently forgot what team he was playing.
Or maybe, he wanted to throw a dig. Maybe he wanted to throw I think he wanted to throw a dig after that defeat against the Raiders, man. I mean,
yeah.
But again, you can't poke the bear, but you're hoping that the Raiders reshape, man, because I'm telling you, after that loss, I've said this before, the Raiders looked like a better team, because if the playoffs started, there's no way in hell Kansas City would want to face the Raiders again.
Exactly.
But like I said, this is just a poke in the bear moment right now with Kelce and having something to say for the Raiders.
Yeah. Drew Lock was 15-28, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, overall passer rating 63.2. Patrick Mahomes was 25 of 40 for 318 yards and only 1 touchdown. He was sacked once. Overall passer rating of 95.6. So, pretty lackluster performance by the wasn't he the MVP of the Super Bowl last season?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you say it's Kansas City. Melvin
Gordon was a leading ball carrier for the Denver Donkeys. 15 carries for 131 yards, no touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell, leading ball carrier for Kansas City, 11 carries for 40 yards. Their run game looked terrible without their starter, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yeah. No rushing touchdowns for either team. Noah Fant, 57 yards, 4 receptions, was the leading receiver for the Broncos. Tim Patrick had a couple of receiving touchdowns. Travis Kelce had one. He had 136 yards on the game for eight catches. Tyreek Hill, 6 catches for 58 yards. That was the lone passing touchdown by Patrick Mahomes was to Travis Kelce. So, if you actually really think about it, I mean, Drew Lock had two passing touchdowns, and Patrick Mahomes only had one.
Yeah. That was really interesting about how that defense had to play against Drew Lock, and but I personally still have questions in the air about Drew Lock. I'm not sure if he's quote unquote locked in just yet, but anything could basically happen up to this point. But it's no surprise that Kansas City again walks away with another win, and of course, because of that win, now they've clinched a playoff berth, and I guess you can already say that they could be AFC West champions up to this point, man. Because
yeah,
yep.
I mean, unless the Raiders have something to say about it, but that remains to be seen. The Raiders are going to have to come through, and they're going to have to win games, man, from here on out if they're going to want to make the playoffs. So, all right, man. Okay, so I'm going to skip the next game. I'm going to go to the Bills 49ers. Bills defeat the 49ers 34-24. Excuse me, 49ers are 5-7. Bills are 9-3. I thought the Bills weren't going to do very well on the season. They started losing, started looking pretty bad, but they've definitely picked it back up. I mean, defeating a banged up 49ers team is really nothing to be, too excited about. But
let's talk about Josh Allen, though. I mean, you got the stats up there for you, my friend.
32 of 40, 375 yards, 4 touchdowns, was sacked once, overall passer rating of 139.1.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good game.
That there is literally Mahomes-like numbers. He literally looked like Mahomes in that game. And I'll have a lot to talk about with Josh Allen in my show coming on later on. Stay tuned, guys. But he looked locked in, sacked once, and he definitely utilized everybody on the field. I mean, look at it. Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, Dawson Knox didn't have a touchdown reception for Stephon Diggs, but still managed to target him 11 times and get 10 catches out of it. So he utilized every single weapon he had, and that's definitely Mahomes like from there. But what a game from Josh Allen, and he's really stepped up in a big way.
Yeah, most definitely. Real quick, going to the chat, Water King Anonymous. The thing with Mahomes is that no matter who he passes to, it's still amazing and lit. Like if his pass turned into an interception, we have to respect how clutch the throw was to the interceptor. That's pretty much how the league and Kansas City Chiefs fans and the national media sees Patrick Mahomes. Everything he does, he craps gold coins. Yeah, like he's like, I got gold coins coming out my ass, and when I throw up, it's freaking cotton candy. The guys, I don't know. They love him. I don't see it. He kind of annoys me. Kermit the Frog can go somewhere. Anyway, everybody knows how I feel about the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, Nick Mullins was 26 of 39, 316 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and overall passer rating of 95.7. Nick Mullins is intriguing. He's been playing some really, really good football.
He's very
as a backup,
intriguing.
Especially.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what San Francisco may be able to package to get him somewhere, to get some capital back, whether it be players or picks or both for Nick Mullins, because it looking like he could possibly be. I mean, because really, who else? Who's he thrown to? Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Kendrick Bourne, Charlie Warner, Jordan Reed. I mean, those are like.
And think about it, and think about it, because we're talking about a wide receiver in Brandon Ayuk that I think when he develops well, he's going to be a serious targeting threat there with Deebo Samuel and Kendrick Bourne in the middle of it as just a wild card wide receiver, and imagine this though, but imagine if George Kittle was back and he was in the middle of this.
Exactly.
I'd feel like that this could be a very interesting offense. And like I said, San Francisco, they've got some questions, man, of what next season's going to bring them. But I think like I said, I think he's the guy that can win you games, but the only real question is, can he be the guy to win those big games?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the question too. Is he going to replace Jimmy Garoppolo? Is he gonna, are they going to stick with Jimmy G and try to, get some, get something from Nick Mullins and his showing? I mean, because like I said, the guy is playing really good football. He's scoring, he's passing the ball, he's scoring touchdowns. Like you really can't be too mad at his play right now. Ayuk had 5 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown. He threw one to Jordan Reed. He threw one to Kyle Juszczyk. I think that's how you pronounce his last name.
Yeah, Kyle Juszczyk. Yep.
Yeah. So, and their super awesome, amazing run game has not been what it has been traditionally. That's the other thing you got to think about too. Is what if they had the run game that they had to start the season and last year? How much better would Nick Mullins be in that situation? So that's definitely intriguing. There's a lot for them to look at going into next season once they get all their players back healthy and all that good stuff. Or do you take a Jimmy G and you trade him off and get something for him and put Nick Mullins at the start?
And see, that's what's going to be interesting. And what's going on, Jay in the Bay, as we see Justin Harden,
what up, Jay in the Bay?
Friend Jay in the Bay,
talking about the Niners right now.
Yep, talking about the Niners right now. And we talked about this earlier because this is a big decision that San Francisco has to make. And listen, this is what's a double-edged sword, because I think Jay in the Bay can relate to this. But Jimmy G, since he's been a 49er, I believe his record, he's been 25-8. That's what's difficult about that, because with the rest of the quarterbacks that Kyle Shanahan has, it's not been great on the record. That's been hard. It's very, very hard to end up trading a guy away, even though they'll only eat little of the contract that he has. But it's hard to kind of move away with that. Because again, Nick Mullins, that's why I'm saying Nick Mullins is good, but is he capable enough of winning those big time games? Everybody has something to say about Jimmy G, but it's just, this is the Philadelphia thing. He can't stay healthy. That's the hard part about Jimmy Garoppolo. And so that's why I think San Francisco is in a double-edged sword with this, because being 25-8 with him and a worse record without him, it's really hard to toss that up, to be honest. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Jay in the Bay may have some thoughts upon it. I'd like to know what you may think could happen, but
yeah, if
I'm looking at it, it's a double-edged sword right now for San Francisco, and I don't know what they're going to end up doing from this point forward.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely believe in Shanahan. I think that he definitely can make good decisions as far as that's concerned. Jay in the Bay seems that his opinion is that Nick Mullins is a backup quarterback in a way. He's better than Jimmy G. Yeah, so a lot of it remains to be seen. It's an intriguing situation. It's definitely something to keep an eye on to see what happens. Obviously, we don't follow the Niners, like we do our teams as close as we do our own teams. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how things develop and what decisions they make moving forward. Or like I said, I mean, at least you can possibly package, Mullins with, something, a pair or some picks or something and try to get something for him. You never really know. Water King Anonymous says, do you guys think that the injuries early on for the Niners has any impact on how they performed for the last weeks? I definitely think the injuries. How long is their injury list?
Yeah, I think the injuries have very much played. It's very much played a role in this, because again, they've lost Nick Bosa, they've lost a bunch of guys up on defense, and then not to mention losing George Kittle and losing Jimmy Garoppolo. Like I said, this is a Philadelphia thing, because the the injuries just continue to pile up. But they do have some really good. They have some really good pieces. They still got Fred Warner. They got Jimmy Ward. And they've got they've even got Javon Kinlaw, and they still have some really good upfront pass rushers. I think if I remember correctly, I'm still questionable about Eric Armstead I don't know if he's really that big factor type guy in the front line, but
Mhm.
you could still utilize the services and whatnot. But there are some interesting pieces here, but you still have the coordinators. I mean, you still got Kyle Shanahan and honestly, Robert Saleh is getting a lot of offers of being a coach, but he's very much shaped the defense very, very well. This just shows you right now, yes, their record's 5-7. This is still not a terrible team because if healthy without all of these injuries, that they wouldn't even be playing their record right now. Like that's just in my personal opinion. I still think it's a competitive team, but yeah, and there's where he said Armstead doesn't get enough sacks for me. He's getting paid hella money. See, that's what I'm saying. He's not a big time factor in that front line of the defense, but San Francisco, they've got a great future, man, and they'll be competitive. It's just they got to get these guys healthy because think about it. We were going through a pandemic. We had no practices, no preseasons. So, of course, injuries have been flying in the air. But I think if they get this right, I mean, San Francisco is going to be back in the playoffs again. They're going to be back in the playoffs again, and I think they'll be back to being a threat. That NFC West is going to be very competitive by the time they get fully healthy. I guarantee it.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, your best ability is availability, and when you got this many starters that are unavailable, it definitely makes for a long season. I personally feel like the 49ers have made a valiant effort. I'm actually quite impressed with the coaching. I'm impressed with the heart that this team has. You definitely cannot, you cannot knock them on that when it comes to that sort of stuff. The next man up mentality. The talent that they have, the depth that they have on this roster, to plug and play guys where it's needed. Obviously, when you have this many guys going out at one time, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. You get an injury here and there, you can plug guys in where needed. I would definitely, as a 49ers fan, not be worried at all about the future. Just like I said, the most interesting thing to me is to see where they go as far as Mullins versus Jimmy G. I know personally know some Niners fans who I'm very close to who can't stand Jimmy G and can't wait for him to be gone. But then I know other 49ers fans who love him. So a lot of that is just opinion, but it'll be interesting to see what Shanahan, the guy that actually makes these decisions, is going to do moving forward. So, all right, so I'm gonna say we're gonna skip our two teams because we do those reaction shows. You guys can tune in. You can go to Jake's Sports Talk Show, or the Snake Sports Talk Show. Excuse me, I'm stumbling. You can go check him out. He'll do a reaction show talking about the Chargers and stuff, as well as we do that on My City My Game, as well as the Raiders, the Spotlight Raiders talk. But last game we're going to talk about Washington no-name football team versus the Steelers. The Washington no-name football team beat the Steelers 23-17. It was a shocking outcome. Nobody saw it coming.
What a game!
Crazy game. The Steelers fall to 11-1. They're no longer undefeated, and the Washington football team is still the Washington football team. They've improved their record by 1 win. So there's not a lot to say about them. I definitely feel like there's a lot that they could be proud of. Obviously, Alex Smith, 31 of 46, 296 yards and a touchdown. Overall passer rating of 92.3. Roethlisberger was 33 of 53 for 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, no sacks, overall passer rating at 82.7. The Steelers could not run the ball. The Washington football team didn't do much better when it came to running the ball. Anthony McFarland Jr. was the top ball carrier for Pittsburgh, 4 carries for 15 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just, I mean, I probably could have ran more yards than that. And I get winded going to the bathroom. So,
right. Yeah. But you know what, though? I'm actually kind of excited for Washington's future. And listen, they needed something because this organization has already gone through a bunch of crap in 2020. I mean, the fact of the investigations with with Dan Snyder and the rest of, the organization, the staffs, I mean, that was nuts. Not to mention they moved off of Jay Gruden and they were needing a head coach. Ron Rivera comes in at the right time and he straightens this team out. Now, of course, another unfortunate is now what the hell do you even call them? Now what do you even call them as a team? Because they needed something. And this game itself was very much a testament of what could be exciting for the future for the Washington football team, to be honest. I do believe this team needs to get a quarterback, in my opinion, because they're not sold on Dwayne Haskins. And look, I love Alex Smith, and I think he's had a huge, miraculous season to even still be playing football. But he is on the tail end of his career, and they are going to need to get a quarterback that I think can fit this kind of place game. I mean, look, don't even get me started with Kyle Allen, okay? Look, that kid is serviceable, but he's not your future franchise quarterback. But I will say this. Chase Young, Montez Sweat, John Bostic, Fuller, that was an interesting defense last night. And Montez Sweat comes in at a time, interrupts that pass play of Ben Roethlisberger, and there was John Bostic to seal it away. I mean, that's just telling you how much that Ron Rivera is big on defense. He's done this in the past with Carolina. This is going to be exciting for Washington, and they needed something. And I think this is, if I'm a Washington fan, this is a positive upside. This is an upside where if they get the quarterback right, and I think if they get some offensive weapons, maybe fix a little of the line, this team could like I said, they could compete with the Giants in that division, because let's just throw in the towel with Philadelphia and the Cowboys. Okay. This is going to be a team I would not even want to face next week. After that game, I would not want to face them. But Pittsburgh, the first game that I have to say that I saw them slowing down was Dallas.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
What the hell is going on, Pittsburgh? Because, mind you, you're playing the last couple of games with backup quarterbacks. You know, and that's where I'm just like, it boggles my mind. But again, it's not that easy. It is not that easy to hold an undefeated record. But at the same time, I don't know if there's just no gas in the tank left or whatnot, but if I was Pittsburgh after this game and the next couple of weeks they got, because I sure as hell would not want to face Cleveland right now, especially knowing that Washington gave it to you on their defense. And then you got to face against a Cleveland defense like that, and you got to maintain your division. They got to straighten this up, because if they want to stay competitive, it's not that easy. And these are the important months, December, January. These are the most important months of football. If you don't straighten it out by then, you're going to get burnt in the playoffs. That's just what happens, especially when you got defenses like that are hungry. They're getting better. I don't think Pittsburgh, if they play like that, they're going to stand a chance.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, this defense does look really good. Pittsburgh definitely was exposed in this game. I don't have any issues. I wouldn't say there's any issues moving forward, but yeah, they definitely need to have a bounce back. They're really going to have to fix it. But shout out to Key in the building. Appreciate you. She said Ron Rivera isn't doing bad. No, he's not. Water King says Washington football team isn't even fun to say anymore. I only say that when they aren't relevant and are bad. I still call them Redskins regularly because that's what I'm used to. It's definitely hard to move on from that. Bial says Del Rio, defensive guru. Absolutely.
Jack Del Rio, man. He was also very impactful in that game.
When you have to hesitate to say if you're a Washington fan because you think they have no fans. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some out there. I don't know of them, but I'm sure they're out there. I mean, I don't know a lot of Chargers fan, but
yeah, I know that's one. What he was referring to. He's trying to come up with the smoke with that.
But yeah, so those are the games for the week. We're pushing the almost the 2-hour mark, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. I appreciate everybody that's shown up, everybody that's jumped into the chat. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Make sure you share this. This is something that I do every week. The Raider J Reaction Tuesday. So there's a whole series on it. Check out the series. It's going to be posted at the end. The playlist will be posted so you can go back and look at previous episodes if you'd like. I'm actually going to start having a lot more guests on the show. So again, we're going to open up the lines every single time. So make sure that you come in and you can call into the show live. You can let your voice be heard. I appreciate y'all so much, man. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for supporting not just My City, My Game and the Snake Sports Talk Show, but also the network in general, the Spotlight Sports Network. We got a lot of big things up and coming. So definitely, if you haven't already, hit the notification bell, click all so you get all the notifications. One last thing. Oh, damn, I'm with you, My City. I forgot we had a Chargers fan right with us. They're so unnoticeable. He really does not like Chargers fans. I think that's what it is. I think he just doesn't like Charger fans.
That's what it is, Water King.
I don't know who's Water King a fan of. I don't even know who he's a fan of, but
yeah,
I'm assuming he maybe a Patriots fan or something. I don't really know.
I think he is. Yeah, I want to say he's a Patriot fan.
Yeah, so
I seriously do.
Yeah, so we're gonna get the heck out of here. Again, thank you so much. Make sure you check out our merchandise. The link is in the description for the My City, My Game merchandise. Check that out. Hit me up on Twitter. It's right down here, Raider _ J77, right under the snake's head right there. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm always, jumping on there and talking, and I check it pretty regularly. So if you have questions or comments or something you want me to put on the show, an idea or anything like that, definitely let me know. Again, share this, share it, and then share it again. I appreciate y'all so much. And I'm going to leave you guys with a little bit we got going from the network, as well as a little snippet of some of the merchandise we got. So, all right, peace out, y'all.
What's up, fantasy champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now, with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network. Welcome to the My City, My Game pod show featuring Raider J77, your place for all things Raiders and all things Trailblazers. Brought to you by the Spotlight Sports Network. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Now let's go.